I've decided to keep a journal.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Podcasty For Me, the podcast about film, culture, politics, and Paul Schrader, where we watch every film written and or directed by American filmmaker Paul Schrader and explore how they speak to their moment in this one. The show's hosted by two guys. I'm one of the guys. My name is Jess Irwin.
I'm one of the guys. My name is Ian Ryan. And there's a couple other guys here. I'm scared of these guys. There are a couple of guys who are on their third strike, law-wise, and I don't know what they're going to do. They might kill us.
I don't know what the laws are over there, though. Do they have three strikes over there? They call them something else.
That's called
maybe they count them with different fingers.
Being a conservative politician.
Do you guys do this, or do you guys do this? Inglourious Bastards-wise, how would you count three?
I think I'm
they each held up
non-thumber.
Different fingers.
I'm a non-thumber.
Okay, non-thumber. They're doing it the way... Oh, wow.
See, I do.
That's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Doing it kind of...
Like an
okay symbol.
Like an okay
okay.
symbol. Hey, okay.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
I like
But ignore the O part. It's just the other fingers. I'm freaked. I'm closing the episode. It's over. Okay. Things are going crazy already. How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
I feel like I haven't talked to you in almost 10 hours.
That's
We were podcasting last night.
We recorded 10 hours ago. We have another record in less than 24 hours. So.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Sick of him already.
Yep.
Let's just get right into things real quick. If you'd like to support the show, we got a Patreon. You go over to patreon.com/podcastyforme. We talk about Clint Eastwood stuff over there still. We talk about some Paul Schrader ephemera. It's $5 a month. There's 2 episodes every month for $5. That's $2.50 an episode.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of deal you can't just get anywhere.
Yeah, incredible.
Enough of that nonsense. Let's bring our guests in. Very excited. We have true experts today with us on the podcast.
Dude.
So to get separately, they are seasoned Nicolas Cage podcasters from the Caged In and Cage Rage podcast. Now they have formed like Voltron to create the Getting Dafoe You pod.
That's right.
I think combined, they've now discussed this film a dozen times. Darryl and Petros, welcome to the show. How you guys doing?
Hey, guys.
Hello. Thank you for inviting us into your humble abode. We do connect like Voltron, but I'm not going to tell you where or how. That's our business, you dirty dogs.
Exciting Cronenbergian mystery.
There's more docking than Interstellar. Let's just say that.
Man, I remember when I first learned about docking. That was probably the funniest thing I'd ever heard. I wanted to talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When two men become the letter H.
They say it funny over there, too. That's so cool.
That's exactly right. And one of those things where if it's ever happened, it happened probably between two guys who had also recently heard about docking for the first time.
Doing a bit.
That's it. Yeah.
We talked recently about some other Urban Dictionary style, like apocryphal act. I think it might have been the Upper Decker, actually.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you wanted to bring it back up, but that's what it was. Yep.
Which is the perhaps mythical prank where you defecate in the tank of a toilet, and so then when it flushes, it's never clean. I don't know if you guys have that over there.
The first time you explained it, more disgusting the second time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So that's the kind of show we're doing.
Yep.
Now you guys are over there in England.
Yes.
Different parts?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Different parts. Yeah, the southern and northern parts of England both accounted for. We're bringing the two poles together.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
we're like if Tupac and Biggie were friends.
I understand that a lot of you guys are trying to drive poles out entirely. That's just a little English politics joke.
Kind of a big move over there.
Some of the people, not us, okay?
Yeah.
It feels so quaint to be racist against like Polish people and Romanian people when you're in the U.S. You're like, I mean, I don't even know. I'd pass somebody on the street and be like, he seems more or less like the same as me, you know?
Uh-huh.
We got some Paul Schrader news to cover in a segment that we call Paul the News That's Fit to Clint. Now, this is this happened recently. I don't know if do you guys follow Paul Schrader on Facebook at all? You ever keep up with his Facebook posts?
I keep up so religiously that I now get notifications for even if he like comments on someone else's post. I'm like,
which he does
all the time, and I'm like, okay, he said something outrageous on some random person's post. I'm fully plugged in.
What's so fun is that sometimes he says something outrageous, and then sometimes he'll just say like, "Well put."
Yeah,
but he took the time, you know. We got a couple updates here. I don't know if either of you guys saw this. He's looking for an assistant.
Yes,
this was big news. I got sent this by, I don't know, half dozen people. Thanks everybody for sending this to me. On October the 3rd, Schrader says he's in need of an assistant. It's an entry-level job. In less polite terms, it's a shit and ice cream job. Is that a term you guys are familiar with?
I think it's shit sandwich probably over here.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
It says there will be days when you would be willing to pay me. I assume that means because he will
It'll be
impart
so glorious.
so much wisdom to
Yeah. Yep.
you. He's hoping to be in pre-production in December. I assume that's on the non-compos mentis project that we've been following over here. You got to be in New York. You got to be on set and on demand 24/7. Job would commence on acceptance. You should have a college education, knowledge of film history, and you should live in the greater New York City area. Computer skills essential, and you need to be able to lug film cans. So
I loved that aspect of it. It's like, because it doesn't even say that like you would be lugging film cans. It's like that's the strength you need, isn't it? Like, it's like if you can lug film cans, that's good enough. Do you know what I mean? It's like really weeding out the film bros. Like, come on.
The weak freaks who, just carrying like a single Criterion disc.
Only the top 10% strongest letterbox users may apply for this role.
That's true.
I would really enjoy a letterbox strongman competition, actually, where you have to like, because you ever see those strongman competitions where they have a bunch of people sitting on like bleachers that are on some kind of a rig, so the big guy gets beneath it and lifts like 14 people.
Yes.
What if it was movie seats?
Or like what?
And it's one guy.
Or
exactly.
If the Criterion closet was you had to pull that van that the Criterion closet is in.
Yes. That's really good.
I like that a lot. Okay, wait. We need this. The comedy rule of 3. What's the third thing?
My wife. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Big popcorn.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. Big popcorn. Big popcorn.
One of those buckets we're all having sex with nowadays. It's just full of stuff. You know.
The non-compost mentis popcorn bucket is gonna go crazy. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but it's gonna be nuts. So that's something that Schrader posted. He also posted a screen grab of someone's phone. It says the limitations of AI. I guess maybe he is texting an AI generator, and it says, imagine all Schrader having dinner with Philip Roth. And then the reply is, oops, I can't generate that image. Can I help you imagine something else? And they reply, imagine a dinner with Paul Schrader and Philip Roth. And then there's no image generated. So he just posted this. Someone generated their own. It looks like shit. To which Schrader replies, in fact, I've had dinner with Philip. So
he's beaten them 3 different ways. One, the limitations are not of AI, but rather of language.
Yes.
We don't know all Schrader. We're trying to know all Schrader. That's the goal of the podcast. Yeah. Number 2, maybe too specific for AI to have anything to work off of. Number 3, he says, gotcha, I've done this. You don't have to imagine it. I know about it.
I'm imagining it right now from my memory. Yeah. Really fucking weird. He's also, I believe he's recorded an audiobook version of Transcendental. Well, no, it says he's the author of an audiobook. Let's see who reads it. I assumed he read it, but that's crazy. Okay, narrated by somebody else. Never mind. I was going to say.
I like the films of Paul Schrader, but listening to an audiobook of him speaking.
Yeah. My girlfriend has forbidden the voice of Paul Schrader from being played out loud in our home.
She must have had a hard time with this film.
Yeah, it just makes her feel upset and uncomfortable. It triggers the same feeling as like a wounded animal,
Right.
Like I need to help
something
this thing.
in distress. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then someone for some reason asked an AI image generator to create an image of taxi drivers starring Kamala Harris. And it's just a picture of it looks kind of like Jenna Ortega. But it's a vaguely Kamala Harris looking woman wearing like a tan button-up shirt with like she's standing in front of a taxi. She doesn't really look like Travis Bickle. And then Schrader replied, "If she was wearing a mohawk, I'd be impressed." So
I wish everybody doing these things had to picture the glass of water they're stealing from someone in the future each time they did.
I think it's a couple glasses of water.
I think it is too.
Yeah. We should ask the AI to generate images of the glasses of water. No, just kidding.
It's just like Paul Schrader, like it just doesn't work. Like Paul Schrader is incompatible with the internet, which seems to be a regular feature anytime Petros gives me an update, because I do not follow Paul Schrader. I always see a retweet, and I'm like, this man is clinically insane, but we're all just like, more,
Yeah.
dance for me, you fool.
Yeah, he seems to be in the kind of that special zone where it's maybe damaging him, but not that quickly, and everyone else seems fairly safe from it, and so we just keep tossing tomatoes approvingly at him. Like
he's always uncancelable as well, isn't he? I think he could say anything. It's just Paul. Do you know what I mean? Like the absolute stones on the guy. To as soon as Roger Corman died, he's like, "What a piece of shit! I never liked him."
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, he's the living embodiment of the phrase "become ungovernable."
He sure is. It's really funny that he's in this movie. We'll get to it in a second. First, we have to get to our. And in terms of Clint news, the trailer for Juror number 2 came out, but we don't talk about trailers on here.
Nope.
So it looks good.
Will not.
I think it looks good.
Do it.
Ian, good or bad? He's not talking about it. He's not even going to say, right. Damn, that's crazy. You guys see the trailer for Juror number 2?
Yeah, trailers are for cowards.
Hell yeah.
Go in blind or stay at home.
I saw the trailer.
What do you think, Petros? You like it?
I did, yeah. I've met Nicholas Hoult, so like I was like, oh my god, like it's my guy.
He's your countryman? He's from over there?
He is from our country. Yeah.
Okay. He seems nice. I don't know. He has a kid named Joaquin. Isn't that weird? Like
probably calls him Joaquin as well.
Joaquin, yeah.
Yeah.
Wacky. The Walker, another Paul Schrader film. Speaking of which, let's do our signature segment, the 2 questions. This is where we ask each other 2 questions. Fellas, were you able to come up with 2 questions for us this evening? Whatever time it is for you.
Petros had some humdingers that he's been holding on to.
Yeah, I got a question for you. What's your favourite breed of dog?
Oh, wow.
Now, as a boy, my mother had this book of dog breeds that was like so well thumbed that it was mostly held together with tape. And
no further questions, Your Honor.
Yeah. I'm familiar with a number of dog breeds. I would say
upwards of 5 dog breeds, 7.
Yeah, I mean,
I need a specific number, you coward.
Big, small, yeah. Commit.
I would say right now, off the dome, I could give you 30. But I'm not going to, because this is a professional show and that would take too much time. This is not based on temperament. I don't know what these dogs are like, but I love the Borzoi. There's a Russian wolfhound, you might know it as. Extremely long, weird-looking dog. Yeah. They look like aliens. They look like fancy aliens that are in like a hunting portrait kind of a dog.
Uh-huh.
I think I've heard that they're really stupid, which I kind of like as well. So I would say the Borzoi is currently my favorite dog type.
Excellent choice.
Ian, what about you?
I'm going to pick a dog that I admire a lot, which is the Maremma sheepdog or the Maremmano. I'm not sure if you've ever seen a livestock guardian dog. They're like these huge white dogs. There's a couple different varieties of
like
them. There's Turkish version. Exactly.
Yes,
like
the Anatolian Shepherd, I think, is the Turkish version.
Yes.
I read the book, guys. I wasn't making that up.
He seems to have read the book for real. These guys are big. They are not the same as sheepdogs because sheepdogs work for humans. livestock guardian dogs work for the livestock. They are raised with the livestock. They, if necessary, will protect the livestock from humans. So I think this is a beautiful symbiosis that we've created apart from ourselves. We've generated this relationship, and I think it's very, very nice. And also they're huge and very fluffy.
They're so big. I saw a video of a livestock guardian dog with a goat that had to have a leg amputated. And the goat, for its own well-being, and the goat was like living in a rescue or something. And the goat was chilling on some hay. And it was time for the humans to sweep up the hay or rake it up and replace it with fresh hay. But the goat was sitting down and resting. And so the dog was basically standing over the goat and refusing to allow that hay to be raked because the goat was not ready.
This is what I'm talking about right here.
This is good stuff.
Come on.
I love these dogs, They're so cool. They're so nice.
Beast looking out for beast. This is what we want to see.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, speaking of Nicholas Hoult, the beast himself.
Him and Kelsey Grammer got each other's backs.
Fellas, what kind of dogs do you guys like? English bulldog.
Nah, we just call it the bulldog here, actually.
Bull terrier, come on.
Yeah, give me one of them racist dogs. Barks at the wrong looking sort of people.
Yeah, cut its ears off for no reason, make it look worse.
Just cut all its parts off. Just give it a tattoo and says like "mum" on the arm. I'm a German Shepherd's kind of boy. Sort of long had him in the family. Have one downstairs as we speak. He comes upon our podcast from time to time, and all his misadventures and misdeeds as we speak. He is humping a pillow. He's coming up to
So his name's Ian?
He's called Oliver, Ollivander.
I like that.
Bastard boy, Mr. Hink, whatever you like.
I had white German Shepherds as a boy.
Very nice.
And they were very scary to me as like a 5-year-old because they look like ghosts at night. So you wake up and there's just like a ghost dog in the room.
Some would say an Aryan Shepherd.
Some would.
Oh, we're not talking about Master Gardener yet. Sorry.
Oh yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. What about you, Petros? What kind of dog you like?
I like a nice little wired-haired dachshund.
Yeah, those are great.
They're like little old men. They look like they're stupid, but at the same time they've got some wisdom in those little faces.
They do.
They're so beautiful.
Yeah. Quest givers, they're ratters as well. That's a fun job to have, I think. Not to disrespect the rats. We love rats as well. Well, thank you for the question.
I can offer a second if you need one.
Please, I would love it.
Off the top of the dome.
Yeah, sure.
Because sometimes I think words and then I say them because that's how sentences work. If you were professional wrestlers, what would your wrestling names be?
Okay, Ian, you're gonna have to go first because I don't know a ton about professional wrestling. So,
I'm gonna say if I had to be one of these things in wrestling is you get a lot of triple letters. You get a Triple H. You get a
Paul W.H. Paul Walter Hauser has taken to Richard Jewell himself has taken to professional wrestling. Did you guys see this?
No,
familiar with
see this.
He's been wrestling. He's looking pretty good. He's like a built man now. And he's been doing some like not amateur but below the super pro stuff, but he's still wrestling.
Like Florida backyard wrestling where you get paid like $40. Cool. Yeah. Very cool.
Front
yard. You know what?
A little better than that.
Okay. All right. Well, now with this image of Paul Walter Hauser in my head, I'm changing strategies here. Okay. I am now going to call myself the Iron Shrek, which I think is
nice.
A much better name. How about you, gentlemen? Do you have wrestling names in mind?
The Iron Shrek. Somebody once told him the world was going to roll him until he rolled them.
Wow.
I love it.
I didn't know I needed a promoter, but now we're locked in, buddy.
There you go.
You've got a wrestling lifer over here.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't you
facilitate my traumatic brain injuries for the next 10 years.
Bigger brain, bigger muscles, baby.
Speaking of which, I think my wrestler name would probably be Chris Benoit 2. It's the only wrestling thing I know about.
Oh, too soon, but still funny.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that's all I have.
Oh, I think I would be, I think something that rolls off the tongue. Double D, Dangerous, Delicious, Dynamite, Diamond Boy, Darryl.
Wow.
Okay, he's thought about this.
I've heard this before.
Yeah, I just thought it right now. You know, just
something.
We're just spitballing, right?
Yeah.
We're just a couple of guys wearing
How dare
trunks,
you.
oiling up,
Having a laugh.
just having banter. Have you got banter over there? Do you like that? Banter?
Yo.
We've heard about that. We've had, we got band, we got chicken shop, we got all this stuff you guys. What about you, Petros? Are you going ethnic with this? Are you going Greek in some way?
What, the plate smasher? Stav
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful Greek. Have you guys seen the film The Naked City? You guys familiar with this,
Oh.
this
Yes.
film?
No.
There's a million
Yeah.
stories in the Naked City or something.
That's
Somewhere
right.
that-
That's
yeah.
right. And this really put me on to the power of the Greek wrestler, and I think that's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Is that the one with the chess playing guy?
I believe so. If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I think he was he actually Greek, or was he like, I think he might be from like a country that doesn't exist anymore. He might be from like,
Macedonian.
yeah, Lower Ossetia or something.
Yeah,
Like,
I definitely would be in like little blue and white shorts. I'd come out with like a little wreath on my head. I'd definitely be. I definitely would take a heel turn at some point. I reckon.
yes,
That's definitely the arc I see for myself. Do you know what I mean? Here he is with a steel plate, fucking just taking people out. I love it.
Very nice.
Ian, I think you're thinking of the Naked. Wait, you're thinking of. I know the guy you're talking about. He was
Okay.
like friends with Kubrick. They met playing chess in the park.
Yeah, you know what? You might be
That's
right
the
that
guy
I'm
I'm
thinking of a
talking
guy
about?
from a different film, because there is a wrestler in The Naked City, but I can't remember which film I'm thinking
Is
of.
he in The Killing? Wait, now we have to stop everything
we
and
have
figure
to
this
know.
out. Yeah, Cola Quariani.
Yeah,
Nicholas. He was Georgian.
okay.
His nickname. This is pretty cool. Nick the Wrestler.
Oh, let's go.
Straight to the point.
Yeah, he's in The Killing. I think you're just confused.
No, you know what? I'm thinking of a different Jules Dash. I'm thinking of Night in the City.
Oh, Night in the City with Richard Widmark.
Right, that's right. But also features Stanislaus Zivskio, I'm not sure, as Gregorius the Great.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
believe
I
is-
remember Gregorius the Great.
Yeah, I believe that's what I'm thinking
Jules
of.
Dassin really highlighting how it used to be so dark at night.
Yeah.
You know?
That's I
One
love
of
to
his-
think about nighttime.
Speaking of darkness, speaking of filmmakers, it's time for us now to discuss today's film, which is, of course, I tried to put a little T in there. It's actually hard to figure out what song that is, where somebody says Snoop Doggy Dogg. It's from What's My Name?
Oh,
Just for the listener at home.
that makes sense.
Now, you fellas have discussed this film once each in podcast
Yeah.
form, is that right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
And then it's lined up, it's queued up, as you guys might say, for Getting Dafoe You, because it's got the other guy in it. So this is sort of a collective madness we're all sharing.
What?
Yeah. Why did you agree
What have
to
you
do
brought
this?
upon yourselves? Yeah.
Might just make it my life's work to be like the guy who has seen Dog Eat Dog the most amount of times. Do you know,
Right, like the worst idea of all time podcasts where they watch Grown Ups 2 once a week for a year.
yeah, but like
Yeah,
no kind of endeavor of like actually monetizing it in any way. Just literally, just like
Yeah.
Also, to
Perverse.
achieve what you're talking about would probably be about 5 times. You'd have to watch this
Yeah,
two more
yeah.
times. And you'd be
any time I see it on physical media, I have to buy a copy as well, which will cost me.
Yeah. Okay.
Which will be like, I don't know, 50 cents to $1 each time.
Yeah. Where is the 4K of Dog Eat Dog? Yeah, I mean, I think part of the film's appeal is the fact that it seems very lightly attended to by its creator. And I think that was like the intention, that it was, this is a joke. This is not a joke, but it's more like a lark. They're having fun. There's a feature with Schrader from around the time the film came out from The Guardian, an interview by Andrew Anthony, and the headline of this interview is, Paul Schrader, I've made some important films. Dog Eat Dog is not one of them. And that's, I think, its greatest strength, honestly. But before we get into the meat of things, individually, what is your relationship with the man Paul Schrader, with his work, with this film? Did you come to it before you had to podcast about it? Where are you locationally with Paul Schrader and Dog Eat Dog?
Well, me and Petros, as he sort of evidenced on our Dafoe journey, because Dafoe is a returning collaborator of the man, we have two very opposing views on the man. If someone is on the fence, Petros is a Schrader persuader. If someone is on the fence, I'm a Schrader evader. If Schrader has 100 enemies, I'm one of them. If he has one enemy, it's me. If he has no enemies, I'm dead. We've covered a few of his films now, and I think every time our rating on our show is, you could probably guess it's Defriend if we like it, Dafoe if we don't. I think I've Dafoed every Schrader film we've covered so far.
Wow. Even Last Temptation of Christ, have you covered that one yet?
We have covered that. I think on the basis it was like a Scorsese directed. I was kind of into it, and our takeaway was like, Jesus, it's fucking rad, man. Call me a I'm in my 30s and I'm converting to the big J Dog.
Yeah. Me too, man.
I think that's a Defriend purely on the basis of his cheeky little grin when he turns the water into wine.
He's so cheeky in that film. Yeah.
Sometimes Jesus has fondled a booby, and that's the kind of J-man I'm looking at. I'm interested in.
Sure. Yeah. Or a couple at the same time, maybe.
He's just like
fast
me. He's
and loose in that film.
He's thinking about some people he meets. He's thinking about, giving them a smooch.
Coveting my neighbor, baby.
So does your hatred of Schrader extend to his written work as well? For example, a Taxi Driver, a Mosquito Coast, I don't know if you've seen the Al Pacino film City Hall.
This is the other confession, as someone who claims to be a film podcaster, there's a lot of stuff I haven't seen. I haven't seen Taxi Driver at this point.
Oh, wow.
Because I know Schrader's involved. It's a principal thing at this point.
He is heavily involved, yeah.
I think my only obligation is if someone DMs like, you want to cover this film on a podcast? I'm like, I guess. And I will type out the word like * spit *, just so they know that they're messing with a real mad dog over here myself. The D-dog, if you will.
And they get this DM that says, I guess spit. And they say, wow, this guy's hard.
Well, depending on the platform, it might just say, I guess, and then in bold spit. Yeah. Sometimes you try to do the * and you get thwarted by hypertext or whatever. What if Taxi Driver starred Kamala Harris? Would that appeal to you more strongly?
Maybe if there was an AI mohawk going on the whole time. It's just never addressed.
Wow.
My boss really likes to violate a number of, if not laws, like, strongly held guidelines for how to behave in the workplace. He loves to talk about how beautiful he thinks Kamala Harris is.
Interesting.
Isn't that weird?
That's kind of an older Lib Dem thing to do.
Older white guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Schrader himself posted about this. He got Kamala pilled, I think, because he saw a lady.
Is your boss Paul Schrader? That's what I'm getting from this. You work for...
Not yet. I've emailed my CV. I will be relocating to New York.
Be lugging those film cans in no time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You claim to be one of the strongest letterbox users. Interesting. All right.
I mean, statistically, I'm probably up there just from, I could carry like a film can. It's not a 70 mil film can. Those are much heavier.
Is there a Rocky style montage video of you preparing to be Paul Schrader?
Oh, there's going to be. We're cutting that out. That's content for the Patreon or something.
Yeah, first he's like squatting 16 millimeter, and then he's
exactly.
Typing Facebook posts between squats, just unhinged takes.
Exactly.
Or maybe delete it, like reaching over to prevent a Facebook post between squats.
Right.
I don't know what the role.
What did Focus
really
Film
entails.
say? Come on, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's What's something you heard on the schoolyard as a boy, Paul, that you want to post about now? Did you guys see that? He posted about a weird racial slur game
song
that kids sang on the schoolyard. He said, "But we'd never met a black person," and but why'd you type the whole word out? You know. Anyway, Petros, what about you? So you're the Schrader persuader. How long you been in this game?
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Paul Schrader. I love Bring Out the Dead. I love the stuff that he's written as well. Hardcore up there, one of absolute beast of a film. Love that.
Great one.
Anytime I'm kind of, I don't know, card counter. Oh, some fucking, I know you haven't covered that yet, but some sweet crack to me. I love the kind of archetypal lonely man film he does, where it's like, I'm just going to revisit this archetype of a character it seems to be in smaller increments. It used to be every 15 years. Now it's I'll do it every 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate a director with a lifelong preoccupation that seems he never seems to resolve the questions he has about this type of guy. And here, curious to know what you fellas think about the presence of God's lonely man here in this film. Do we have 0? Do we have 3? Do we have perhaps 1 or 2? Big questions for the Dog Eat Dog episode.
Huge questions. How dare you?
Huge questions.
I need to disconnect.
Should have sent these to you weeks ago so you could begin your treatise. Ian, had you seen this film before?
I had not seen this film. I was scared to watch this movie. I knew that you did not like this film, and I like a lot of the people involved. So I get, I'll be honest, I was much more interested in the film than I expected it to be. I expected it to be bad and boring. It's not boring, at the very least.
It's not boring.
The badness of it in question, maybe. The badness of it, inconsistent, I would say. But this is the first time.
Well, guess what, Ian? I've experienced some personal growth.
Yeah.
And my opinion on the film is different now. I used to work at a video store, and the film Dog Eat Dog came in on Blu-ray disc. And I thought, oh, Paul Schrader, the taxi driver guy. I'll take this home. This sounds crazy. And I watched it, and this was probably 2017 when the film came out on Blu-ray. And I hated it very much. And so did my famous podcast girlfriend, hated it. We were fairly disgusted by the film. And then that was what I knew of it. And going into the Paul Schrader podcast challenge we've set for ourselves, I did think it was pretty funny that I hadn't seen Affliction, I hadn't seen Light Sleeper, I hadn't seen, most of the big ones. I hadn't seen Hardcore, but I'd seen Dog Eat Dog.
Yeah.
So it's been haunting me as we get closer and closer. And then I threw it on, and maybe it's the context of having spent so much time with the man. Maybe it's the context of knowing where it comes in his career, a very significant sort of moment for him creatively, artistically. I had a good time. I don't know. It was fun. It's it doesn't think it's a good movie. It's not trying to be anything. It's trying to basically be entertaining.
Well, I'm going to object to this. You're making it sound like there's no artistry to it.
No.
One of the things I was struck by really from the first frame, or the first 5-minute sequence, is how much visual style is on display. How much of the old
Absolutely.
Paul Schrader is back. How much of that dark energy we are bringing into this new era.
It's pretty dark, though.
Yeah.
So,
well, I know, but this is this is the new moment for him.
Cage fellas, you're familiar with Dying of the Light and Dark. You're familiar with the whole rigmarole. For the listener who I guess is delinquent in their homework, just listen to the episode. What's wrong with you? But somebody who skips the Dying of the Light episode but turns on the Dog Eat Dog episode. Every episode, someone's first.
Yeah.
Schrader he's making a movie with Nicolas Cage called Dying of the Light. That's a spy thriller about a guy with frontotemporal dementia, and the film is taken away from him in post-production, edited and mixed, and all these things without his input. Still releases a Paul Schrader film. He disowns it. He goes on Facebook and says, legally, I can't disparage the film, but don't see it. It's not a Paul Schrader film.
Alex Ross Perry documentary reveals that it drove him into a genuine depression. It returned to alcoholism. He was taken off track by this experience.
Yeah,
It derailed him.
he says that they tried to kill him. He said that the producers of that film tried to kill him. And so then, coming out the other side of that, he decides to basically to redeem himself, to take another bite at making a Nick Cage movie. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if I could make any movie, like any type of movie, to have fun, I think it would be like a Elmore Leonard, Edward Bunker style, out of sight style bunch of buffoon criminals movie. Like this to me seems like the ideal type of movie to have a good time making.
Yeah.
You know?
Some of my research for this film was I listened to Paul Schrader on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast, which, as you can imagine, hour and a half long. Paul Schrader talks for about 4 minutes because
what a nightmare.
Bret Easton Ellis is like, so I've got a question for you. 5 minutes later, he's like, oh yeah, so what do you think about that, Paul? And he's just Paul trying to figure out where was the question in that. But like, yeah, he did say that whole thing, like this film was a fuck you to Lionsgate, essentially, who like butchered Dying of the Light. And his whole approach of like every department head was like first time for them. So they were like either from music videos or kind of fashion or experimental music. And his approach to it as well, I found fascinating for somebody kind of as long into his career as he was to, he talks about the idea of like there being like a post rules generation and kind of goes through the stages. And it's like, we've got to that, like the generation of people that he like made this film with don't even know that rules ever existed because they started making movies on their phone at like 7. So like, it's not like the kind of like Tarantino thing where it's like, I know what the rules are, but I'm going to break them. I'm so edgy, okay? Like, don't question me on it. Whereas like this is just like people would be like, what? There's a rule book on how to do this. No, we can just do like whatever the fuck we want. And like,
by the 5th credit card commercial that's riffing on Pulp Fiction, it no longer feels transgressive at all. He's I think in the Perry documentary Man in a Room, he talks about wanting every shot or every sequence to be done in the least boring way possible. Like he just wanted to experiment, which is a really cool thing for like a guy in his 70s at the time to aspire to do. And I think one thing you could say for the movie is it's not visually staid. There's nothing conservative or dull about this film. Darryl, do you hate us for making you do this? How was your experience revisiting the film?
I just, you all make me sick. You all make me sick. It's been a while since I watched it, and like the first 5 minutes, when it's Dafoe in like the pink rooms, and there's all those like all the TV effects going on, and he's taking drugs. So I'd kind of forgotten a lot about this. I was like, oh, is this more interesting than I remembered it being? And then it's all very hectic, and he's jumping around, and he's got that tattoo of an eye in his chin. I'm like, hey, who is this character? And then he just kills a family. I'm like, all right,
shoots like a 12-year-old girl in the head within the first 10 minutes,
obliterate generations one by one. And then the middle of the film for me is kind of like, it just takes a while to get anywhere. Fuck Diesel. Fuck him.
Oh, wow.
Okay. God, boo. And then the end of the film is all weird. It's kind of like strange stylistic choices, and in between that is kind of dull, nothing hurdles for me. This is kind of the issue I have with Schrader, though, as Petros will attest to, in that I just find him very, very boring. Like Facebook posts, wow, chef's kiss. We'll have more of that. And then in just terms of like cinema, because I know, Petros, you mentioned the card counter. That's one we disagreed on as well, because I found that incredibly dull. We're covering Light Sleeper on our upcoming season, so we won't spoil that because it's not out yet at time of recording, but This is a recurring thing on our podcast. So the people Dafoe works with a lot. Your Schraders, your Ferraras, your Wes Andersons. There's something about it. None of it clicks for me. Maybe I'm in the wrong, but Schrader especially is like, oh, well, he wrote this, and I'm like, ugh. Okay, well, I wrote a poem about a snail when I was like 8 years old, but I don't go on about that.
Well, I would like to hear more about the snail.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the poem about the snail.
The only bit I remember was the first verse, and it was from the first person from the perspective of the snail. For some reason, he was called Honcho. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Didn't know. I'm a honcho snail, got a honcho tail, got a honcho shell. It fits so well.
Wow.
Hold your applause.
Young Darryl had bars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does sound like some of this rap music that they bring up a couple times in the film.
We have a tiny bit more production context to get to here.
Yeah.
So first of all, Schrader comes to Cage. He says, I want to do this again. Let's try to redeem ourselves after the Dying of the Light experience. And he comes to Cage with a script adapted from a novel by Edward Bunker. I believe the novel was published in 1995.
Yes.
We'll talk about Bunker in a little bit, but
yeah, we gotta go deep on Bunker. Fascinating figure.
Yes, deep into the Bunker. But he comes to Cage for the Mad Dog part, and Cage, I think, smartly says that he's been playing a lot of crazy lately, and he wanted to play the straight man, a relative straight man. He wanted to play the role of Troy, and I believe he suggests Dafoe for Mad Dog. Dafoe I think Schrader had come to him for one of his more recent films, and Dafoe said, like, this is not a big enough part. Like, come back when you have something more interesting. But
that's our boy right there. That's our boy.
Yeah, there you go. And then also, apparently, he was insulted by the disparity between the pay offered for his role compared to the pay offered for Cage's role. And Schrader talked Nicolas Cage into giving Dafoe $100,000 out of his own salary for the film to like entice him to do the role. So I don't know. That seems cool.
Yeah, I like this. Everybody should be sharing their salary and getting mad when they're being paid.
Yes.
This is good.
Been doing this at work lately. Some of my coworkers have been asking me how much I get paid, and I'm excited by whatever they're mad about, whatever they're planning. I'm looking forward to it. So then Christopher Matthew Cook comes into it. Now, Darryl, you've said fuck Diesel.
I did say that.
I mean, honestly, I'm impressed by the way that this guy, it's a 3-hander, and 2 of the other guys have whole podcasts about them.
Yeah.
And he's holding his own. I think he slots in. I think he seems pretty, he doesn't seem adrift to me. He doesn't seem lost. Ian, you seem like you're going to disagree with me.
I like to remind people that being a professional actor means you're so much better at acting than any average person most of the time. On these types of podcasts, we like to come
Denise
down on people.
Richards in Starship Troopers is doing such a better job than I could ever imagine.
Correct. Yes. So this guy's a professional actor, no question. Part of the problem is the script, and a lot of the dialogue in this film is, to me, quite bad. Some of the dialogue. So he doesn't have a lot to work with, but his scenes are difficult for me. His scene in the hotel, difficult scene to get through. And I was sort of imagining what I wanted to see from the scene. I could imagine all sorts of versions of this scene, and I wasn't really getting any of them. So I have to put a little bit of the responsibility on old CMC's shoulders, his broad, sexy shoulders.
I mean, this is you see somebody like this in a film and you think, Batista should have been in here. We should have gotten Dave.
Speaking of wrestlers,
or maybe The Rock doing one of his attempted dramatic turns could have at least been interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
A Pain and Gain. Do you guys like The Rock? You guys like Dave Bautista, speaking of wrestlers, as actors?
I like Dave Bautista as a... Yeah, I think The
agreed.
Rock, I'm kind of like put off by the fact that like he just seems like a bit of a knob.
He's more business than
Seen
man.
that as well.
He's
Yeah,
brand.
He's too hustling all the time.
I was reminded recently of The Rock did a post when the Queen died. I don't really care about the Queen, but like the basic like premise of it was like...
Did he find out ahead of time, just like with Bin Laden?
Probably.
The Queen would have loved
Black
Extra
Adam.
Power Tequila.
No, he said it's such a shame she won't be able to watch Black Adam.
Yeah.
That is really funny.
It's a shame nobody saw Black Adam, you fucking fool.
When you're right, Dwayne. When you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, Black Adam had some interesting stuff
She
going
would have
on in
loved it.
I think she would have been insulted by it in a way that is probably good for her to feel. Like, I think we should have subjected her to that
Could
film.
have been healthy.
Yeah. Still weird that she's dead. You guys feeling that over there?
Yeah.
Do you wake up and think I have a king?
The Queen
That doesn't
dying.
seem right.
The Queen dying was our 9/11. To be honest.
I just look up at the photo. I just had to take down the photo of the Queen and replace it with a photo of the King in my bedroom, and then in the morning I have to salute it. Do you know what I mean? Like, here he is, good old Charlie boy.
Buried all our pound notes. It was too transacting was too sad.
Right. Where?
By the tree. It's by the tree with the swing. Yeah.
Great.
God, they must be so heavy. Anyway, Ian, do you want to do it? Should we do a little plot summary so we can orient ourselves?
I want to shout out our future boy, Alexander Dynan, who comes in on this film and is the DP of the next 3 great Schrader films, well, of varying greatness. But I mean, he shoots First Reformed. So what are we?
It's really interesting to I believe the editor, Benjamin Rodriguez Jr., who edits this and also edits First Reformed and Dark. It's so interesting to see these people come in on this film, and then the next one is so different and seen as such a seismic shift in Schrader's career. But they came in on this. I mean, it's. But
I'll consent that I don't. If you just told me that the person who shot Dog Eat Dog also shot First Reformed, I wouldn't say impossible. This is not. If you told me the person who shot, I know he didn't direct it, but City Hall shot First Reformed, then I would say, wow, that person experienced a lot of growth in 20 years. But no, this is somebody who's willing to experiment, who's willing to do exciting things with framing and light. So
I think someone who might be like 25 as well.
Right. I think as the guys pointed out, he had I believe a music video credit to his name at the time he came in on this.
Very music video type film.
Yeah, it feels like this film is like Paul Schrader's like kind of film school for people who haven't quite like been able to get the credits yet. And he's just like,
right.
Yeah.
I'll test their metal, like. And it's kind of refreshing to see somebody who's like, I believe in youth. Do you know what I mean? Not like, instead of being like, I'm going to wheel out some fucking ancient man to DP my film again. Do you know what I mean? Like, get him out of the grave. Do you know what I mean? Get Michael Ballhaus out of the grave.
As someone as visibly and audibly aged as Paul Schrader, and you see and hear him in the film, in fact. It's really impressive to me the way that he stays on top of shifts in film production styles, film distribution and financing. He's absolutely changing, like trying to adapt with the time, trying to be inspired by changes in viewer tastes. I mean, both with, he talks about it with the Canyons and with this film and with Dark later. Like he feels liberated by audiences. Psycho comes to mind. Like no audiences in a movie theater where the watching a film where the protagonist shifts 40 minutes in nowadays would probably say, oh yeah, all right, well that happens sometimes. Whereas, they would sue Universal in 1960 or whatever.
He's trying to get their ticket money back. Yeah.
Yeah. They're 25 cents or whatever. Plot summary, Ian.
All right. Well, we hinted at it. This is a non-linear film and starts with Willem Dafoe's character, who is Mad Dog, not the lead of the film, I would say, but one of the three leads. And he is in a house watching a TV interview kind of about gun control or about gun ownership. Mm-hmm. And then he is provoked in his mind, I think, to violence by the arrival of his ex-wife. Do we get clarity on what the relationship is?
I think it's an ex-girlfriend.
Ex-girlfriend. All right.
That was my impression.
He's sort of a unstable and also wheeling and dealing guy, and he ends up slashing her throat and also going to shoot her 12-year-old daughter for Paul Schrader, I think, maybe the most explicit violence we've ever seen on screen.
Yeah,
in a directed film of his.
Right, for a guy who's so closely associated with like explosive male violence, there isn't usually this much.
No, I mean, Taxi Driver, Yakuza, certainly from the beginning, Rolling Thunder, the obvious point of reference here, but
right.
He hasn't shown us himself a lot of this nasty hyperviolence, but it's right from the top here. And then we are jumping around.
Budget out of control on this. I did notice something. This is the kind of thing that a true Paul Schrader podcast psychopath would pick up on.
Uh-huh.
When I think her name is the girlfriend, her name is Sheila. Australian for beer. When she turns the computer around and reveals that he's been looking at pornography on the computer, it's like a Japanese website, and it says a little chime plays that says "irashamase," which is the thing that they say when you go into a Japanese restaurant. This is the same sound effect that plays for some reason out of the front gate of the yoga teacher character's home in the canyons. It didn't make sense there.
Sure you gentlemen. I'm sure you spotted this as well.
Doesn't make a ton of sense here.
Yeah.
Oh, the canyon's biggest fan over here. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm seeing the Matrix.
Yeah, you're seeing the threads in the fabric. Yeah.
Exactly. I got my red yarn in the other room. Sorry, Ian, I interrupted. Please continue.
No, not at all. So then we jump around introducing the other two leads, Nicolas Cage's character, so they've all three been in prison, and they've all three formed this bond. And so we're sort of cutting back and forth between Cage's character's Troy, his recent release, and it's in black and white. So we're getting a little of the old Mishima, different styles depending on era and context and things like this. And then also Christopher Matthew Cook's Diesel. So they are all ex-cons. They all try to get back into a civilian life, and they all commit new crimes. So they are all two strikes in, basically, is the setup for this film.
Yes. And
they are having trouble with their re-entry. So they can't seem to get legitimate jobs. There's some things in the film because
re-entry. Right. It's another sort of space thing. It sounds like sex as well. Sorry.
Yep. I was gonna say that. So we are told most of the story from Cage's perspective, his character's perspective, which means that it's hard to tell sometimes which of these things are meant to be observations that we should share as the audience, and which of these are meant to be very stupid and incorrect observations about what's happening.
Yeah, because they do the ironic narration doesn't line up with what we're seeing move a few times. Yeah.
So among these things, he says that Diesel could have been a lawyer from Stanford or something, and he seems like a totally averagely intelligent guy, I will say, which I don't know. Is that a joke? I'm not sure. It's not totally clear.
Well, I mean, Ian, you've spent plenty of time in the Palo Alto, Stanford area.
That's a great point. Yeah.
I think there's probably plenty of guys who are maybe this dumb, but from more
from money.
Auspicious backgrounds. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So that's a good point. Great point.
Thank you so much.
So these guys, they're at the strip club, and then they're figuring out their next scheme. They have this whole. I'm going to do the fast version, and then we can go back and talk about parts we want to get into. All right.
Beautiful.
So they come up with this plan given to them by the Greek character, who's kind of a, you see these characters in Heat. This is kind of the Bunker character, confusingly, right. The character based on Bunker, but this guy who like sets up crimes for other people, gives them plans, right. And they carry them out. So they extort this drug dealer for his stash, and then they have a new plan, a big time plan to rob the infant son, to kidnap the infant son so that they can get the money that is owed to another criminal from this like Wall Street guy.
Pretty classic noir setup, especially neo-noir setup. Obviously, this recalls Raising Arizona when Nick Cage is involved. But have any of you seen the film After Dark, My Sweet? It's a Jim Thompson adaptation from the early 90s with Bruce Dern and Jason Patric and someone else. But it's a kidnapping of a child, and then the child turns out to have diabetes. And it's reminded me of this film. Just a good movie. Check it out. Yeah, these are morons.
No, but you're right. And there's the kind of like hijinks. Yeah, they're morons. And it's Elmore Leonard. It's like Martin McDonagh, Seven Psychopaths style, sort of like, oh, you can't believe how this goes wrong. Huh?
Fewer psychopaths.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Trio of psychopaths.
Maximum 3 psychopaths. Yeah.
Who do you think? Did you guys in your minds while you were watching the film? Did you map one to dog and one to eat and one to dog? Also, the opening credits, the title flashes on screen as dog eat dog.
Yes, that's true.
Did you notice that?
True. Yeah.
That was something that jumped out to me. But, that's the kind of thing that the buffoons at the center of this film would probably do if they were working the Adobe Premiere,
Yeah.
That title's, I don't know about Adobe Premiere, that's the Windows Movie Maker kind
Windows
of
Movie Maker. Yeah.
That's the free stuff,
some kind of a free trial.
Yeah, iMovie. Finance.
iMovie. Exactly. Yeah, he's really, ever since like The Walker, I feel like Schrader has just been doing the most default ass titles on these films. And I don't know why. He steps it up a little bit on First Reformed, but in revisiting that movie, I was struck by how consumer software those titles were. I don't know what his idea is.
He gives me the impression of a man who doesn't want to waste time on the title. There's a story to be told.
I think that's right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. He does not respect credits. He does not respect titles. I think if he had his way, he wouldn't put anyone in the credits.
Yeah, that's a DGA thing.
Just be like Facebook posts just going up the screen.
Right. That would be cool, kind of 2-screen experience. Darryl, I'm curious, are you generally a kind of goofy crime movie fan? Do you like an Elmore Leonard? Do you like a post Tarantino, Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, 8 heads in a duffel bag kind of thing? What is this in the hands of someone besides Paul Schrader? Would you potentially enjoy this sort of movie?
Maybe. I mean, the first time I watched it, I wasn't too familiar with Paul Schrader, so I went into it pretty neutral. And I'd forgot I'd put like a rating on Letterboxd the first time I saw this. I gave it 3 stars, and this time I've downed it to 2, and I was like, what was I think I was being too generous because I didn't know what I was getting into. And I compensated, and I'm regretful that I was a coward back then the last time I watched this.
You weren't mad enough at the man.
Yeah. I mean, I love a goof. I'm part of the goof troop. If I was a dog, I'd be goofy. When I fall down, I go yo-hoy in that goofy way.
Yeah,
it's kind of like watching this. I don't know why, because I think it might have come out the year before. It almost felt like Paul Schrader had played Grand Theft Auto 5. Is like, I can do that, and then he didn't.
There is something Grand Theft Auto about this. Yes. Very much so.
Yeah, because I've got like, I think Willem Dafoe would have been like your Trevor, and then Cage would have been your Michael, and then he just like, oh, well, we don't have a black guy, so here's Diesel, everybody. I think I read because like Schrader posted about this on his Letterboxd account a few times. Yeah. And he said,
I have the full quote. Would you like me to read it, or do you have it available too?
No, please do if you have it.
Okay. Yes. Oh, I mean, you did the homework. So He posted on his letterbox to say, I had this dilemma on Dog Eat Dog. 3 white ex-cons form a crime group. The PC side of me, felt one of them should be black. Yeah. Felt one of them should be black, but if blacks and whites don't hang out in prison, why should they after? So I made them white and even let Willem use the N-word. On First Reformed and Card Counter, there were important roles for blacks who could have been white, so I seized the opportunity. I believe there is an obligation if you are making a contemporary story set in a diverse culture. There's no excuse no excuse not to make an important character a person of color. It's the way we open the talent pool. That's no longer the issue that it was 30 years ago, but the principle still is valid. One of those weird backhanded things where somebody is saying stuff I agree with, but saying it in the worst possible way that makes me feel like they don't really understand why it's important.
Also, so bizarre coming from the director of Blue Collar, where he got it so right, 40 years ago. 50 years ago.
Fresh out the gate. Got it right.
Yeah.
I mean, I do want to shout out Omar J. Dorsey, who plays Moon Man, the guy that they go to rip off in their laughably fake police car. This guy, he plays the sheriff in the David Gordon Green Halloween sequel trilogy. Just got a great face. This guy should be in more stuff. He seems to do a lot of television. He was on 88 episodes of whatever Queen Sugar is. So I hope he has a nice house. But I just like this guy. I want to see even more stuff. Ian, you ever see this guy on TV? You watch TV?
I've seen some. I've seen him in Django Unchained and Selma. He's got a couple small roles in good films. But Darryl, you were saying about Grand Theft Auto style filmmaking being junk.
It kind of felt like obviously that was just the biggest thing in the world at the time, GTA 5, and it kind of felt like this was almost an attempt to do that. I know it's more based on, I guess, the stories of the prisoner man whose name escapes me.
Edward Bunker.
Mr. Blue.
I suppose this would be Dafoe's second dealing with Bunker, because he was also in Animal Factory from 2000 as well, which was a Bunker story. It kind of felt it felt like it was building towards like this big heist, but then there was just a lot of talking, and then there's a baby, and like you said, Jake, it kind of like this is like a more extreme Raising Arizona, because if anyone has experience with stealing one baby, it's Nick Cage. I was like, okay, this could be something, and then they steal the baby, and then I don't know, maybe I just kept fading off here. The baby just disappears.
I think the baby kind of just vanishes from the story. Yeah.
They leave it with the nanny who is nanny, there's going to be a setup where they're going to call her, and she's going to be released later when they get the money.
But then that just doesnn't happen. So I guess she just.
I was so disinterested by this point. It was it was kind of like this classic like, we got to have like one last big score kind of thing. We're all on 2 strikes. We can't go around living like this. That whilst they're all in the middle of raw dogging various strippers, which is, I feel like Paul Schrader is a man who loves a strip club. I feel like he loves throwing he loves passing some Benjamins. So.
Well, I don't know if he likes going there, but I know that he seems to enjoy the fact that if you set a scene in a strip club, you get to hire women to stand around naked, and that you don't really have to explain to them why they're naked in the scene, which for a certain generation of man might appeal to them. Not me, of course. I'm very I'm up to date on all the stuff I should think and say.
Yeah.
So then have we finished the plot sum?
Yeah, so it goes catastrophically wrong in the way that these post-Tarantino films tend to go wrong, where a guy shows up at the house mid-kidnapping, interrupting the kidnapping, so Willem Dafoe turns around and blasts his head off with a shotgun. It turns out to be the guy they are trying to get the money from. So this has all gone to complete shit. They try to dispose of the bodies, and there's kind of a personality conflict between Dog and Diesel ends up killing Dog because of the sort of situations that he gets them into, or because of what he represents about inability to reform, or, we can get into what's happening between them. But then Diesel goes back to Troy and accidentally gets some attention from like a supermarket manager who sees that he's carrying a gun. The police
just like
come.
The stupidest way to get caught possible.
Yeah, which I think is in keeping with this style of film. This is not, unusual. And so they get chased by the cops, and in three-strike fashion, which is something that Bunker was very interested in writing the original novel. They just fight the cops. They just like, we might as well just go down samurai style, as they say.
They say samurai style,
like one of your ghost dogs.
And then someone else says Jackie Chan, which is
that's right.
The kind of geopolitical understanding that these fellas might have, but also I think probably the sort of thing that a Paul Schrader or a Tarantino thinks is funny to equate.
Yeah,
those different guys. Jackie Chan does play a Japanese character in Cannonball Run, but that is not. I don't think that's the joke they're making.
No, I don't think so either. The film is full of these jokes. We haven't really addressed the fact that the film, I couldn't decide how much it wants to be funny and how much it wants to generate pathos of some kind. Like it tries to be bleak at other times, which I feel like separates it from a post-Tarantino flick. It's not just trying to be goofy. Maybe you guys disagree. I thought there was moments that almost made the film work even less because they're like generating a whole different film that it seems to not be clear which one we're supposed to be watching.
Well, Paul Schrader seems like the type of guy who has an inability to make like a comedy, like an out-and-out comedy. Even like the humor in this, it's like I find myself like nervously laughing, where it's like, am I supposed to be laughing at this or like with
Am I
this?
okay?
Like,
Am I safe right now?
And I think because the whole film is like a fuck you, it's like, I'm just going to be like as un-PC as I can. It's I don't know, it's very edgelordy like comedy.
It is.
So it's a bit like eye rolly, and like I had a suspicion all the way through watching this. I was like, I think there's some of this script missing. And then like lo and behold, listening to Paul Schrader talk about the film, is like, so the first thing I had to do was rip out 15 pages of the script, turning it from a 3-act film into a 2-act film. I was like, there we fucking go. That's why the film kind of just like grinds to a halt.
Truly. What a stunning embarrassment for the two of us with this.
Yeah, because we've tried to do Schrader, and that you just blew us out of the water. Jesus, Jaws 2
and your point's
here.
correct. Yeah, it's cut down from the novel, further cut down from the Matthew Wilder screenplay.
Right,
you're right.
And I love Schrader's like way that he gets like. He owns the film for himself. If someone else has written the script, he goes, I just type it out again. And then I have ownership over the script. And it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, it's my film now.
Well, I don't know this for a fact, but it does seem like to direct a movie, you do kind of have to be a raving narcissist. Yeah, it seems like massively. That's the only way that it gets done. Some of them seem nicer in interviews, but even like Kelly Reichert or whatever, she's got to be just a total maniac. 4'1" maniac.
Get me that cow now.
You have no idea how many cows they went through on that set. I mean, I think some of that pathos, some of that, sympathy, empathy that we have for the characters does come from Cage and Dafoe, who just can't help but, especially Dafoe, you can't help but feel bad for the guy. He's one of the great masters of like sympathetic and scary
and nasty
and funny and nasty all at once.
Yeah.
We've all seen him pretend to be a lady in Spider-Man. Do you know what I mean? As the Green Goblin. Yep. He knows how to trick you into feeling for him. Like, oh my God, there's a lady in a burning building. Oh no, he's a maniac. And he's got a goblin bomb you.
Fall for it every time.
But then you feel bad for him because he's being tormented by the mask,
Yeah. Yep.
He contains so much. And this character, we see him, the first thing we see from him is this like brutal misogynistic violence, and then we still kind of you know, he has that sequence where he takes his shoes off and rubs his feet on the carpet, and Richard Brody really liked this movie, the critic from the New Yorker. Kind of an incredible review. But he cites that scene, the scrunching of the toes on the carpet, as evidence of Schrader and Bunker's, their significant sympathy for these men, their understanding of the structures and the experiences that have shaped them and set them on this path from which they can't really veer.
Yeah.
He loves this movie, and I think he locates like that Schraderian protagonist, your Travis Bickle, your Julian Kay from American Gigolo, your Light Sleeper. They're all kind of hurtling towards something, usually a moment of violent, transcendent or suicidal final action. And here they are hurtling toward that, even though they're morons and they, I don't think they could write in a journal if they tried. But nevertheless, they do seem to be like dum-dums experiencing a Travis Bickle trajectory that they don't understand.
Mm. Yeah, that sequence that I mentioned with Diesel, which sort of has little sparks of genius, I think, in it, but is otherwise totally ineffective.
Is him in the hotel room?
Yeah, he's in the hotel room. He meets this girl and sort of flirts with her, and they go back to his room. And then as she's asking him about his life, what he likes to do, who his friends are, what he does for fun, and he is sort of getting upset because he's come out of prison and doesn't have a sense of what he does for fun or where he goes or who his friends are. Mm-hmm. And then he incorrectly assumes that she knew that he was in prison, which is the kind of sort of like triple assumption about, that I think real ex-cons face. Like nobody respects people who have been in prison. Everybody can tell that I've been in prison. Yeah, nobody respects me. Yeah. And that idea, I think, is very moving to say that, then it turns into this kind of violent, tense, scary thing where he sort of chases her out of the room because he's mad, but then apologizes and it's too late. And
she's like a particularly frail woman and he's a particularly large, stolid man.
Yeah. And this doesn't descend into black comedy violence. It's sort of just like, this is more like a slightly more self-aware Travis Bickle who realizes how he's fucked up and, wants to try to fix it. And I don't know, I like that idea, but this is the type of thing that confuses me. And I don't think the scene is done that well. But, the idea that these characters are meant to be people who represent real human beings. I don't know that Elmore Leonard's stories tend towards the side of like, oh, I know who this is in real life. I see this person.
Yeah.
So,
and I think where this film falls down is having the three protagonists, because like what Paul Schrader is very good at doing is taking like the one lonely man and kind of like extrapolating the kind of like what it is that is gnawing at their soul and really like driving it through, like, because it's quite fresh in the memory. You look at a film like Light Sleeper and it is just like a lot of John Latour and it is just kind of everything that's weighing him down, and you kind of get character development through his interactions with other people, whereas this you don't really get that because there's just like it's spread too thin and it's like you don't have the time to let the characters breathe, and at the same time you don't get the time to like really get into their interior, like what their wants and needs are more than like money. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like even you, Ian, talking about the whole thing that they want to like go straight and like have different lives. It's like, I'm probably sure you like can read that like on a synopsis of the film, but like actually within the film, you don't really get that from the characters. You kind of just get
there's
like,
no attempts.
Yeah, you get that little moment of Dafoe power where he's in the car with Diesel and he's asking like, all right, after we're done with this, I want you to give me, we're going to sit down. I want you to be totally candid. I want you to give me 5 things to reboot, which I liked a lot. That was a little,
that's how we end every podcast. I'm like, Darryl, can you tell me what are my key flaws and I will do better next time.
Yeah. I think that's nice. And the only only counterpoint I'll give is this guy did make Blue Collar, as Jake pointed out, 40 years ago, where I think you get three guys suffering similarly but distinctly and parallel to each other, and it works quite well. But I think you're right, Petros, that here it doesn't, and it seems to not totally be clear what the different things are that he wants to say about them. Mm-hmm. There's not a huge amount of differentiation, and I'm not sure why it's not nearly as effective.
Can we talk about Bunker for a second? Talk about the real life inspirations he may have drawn from. I've got a little Bunker stuff. Ian, do you have Bunker stuff?
I got Bunker stuff. Let's tag
all right.
team.
Well, so Edward Bunker is an author of crime fiction and a Hollywood, like, he seems to have functioned often as a kind of lender of real world credibility. He has served as a consultant to a number of people. He was he played Mr. Blue, as Petros has mentioned in Reservoir Dogs. He was both the inspiration for the Jon Voight character Nate in Heat, Michael Mann's Heat, and he was also like a consultant to Mann on that film. He is one of the reasons that Danny Trejo is in films, because they knew each other from prison. But Bunker, he was, I believe, like initially incarcerated at the age of 11. So
for fighting his abusive father.
Yeah, his whole life. And then spent basically the 18 years of his life in and out of all kinds of institutions, jails, prisons.
He was in a state, basically like mental hospital called the Pacific Colony that just recently closed. And
terrifying,
if you're a fan of Twin Peaks: The Return, there's a scene that was shot there where James and Freddie are sitting on a loading dock and talking about Freddie has this green glove that, I don't know.
I remember the green glove.
Yeah. So this scene is shot at this now, like in 2015, closed state mental hospital.
Terrifying. But while he is at the McKinley Home for Boys in 1950, he meets this woman, Louise Fazenda, who was a silent actress. She was married to Hal Wallace, the producer, and she kind of takes him as a little project, and she gives him a typewriter and a dictionary and a thesaurus and a subscription to the Sunday New York Times, and introduces him to like Aldous Huxley and Tennessee Williams and William Randolph Hearst. She's like, you're gonna be a little writer boy, and he
kind of a Paul Schrader style arc.
With Kale, but he latches onto this, and he's like, I'm like Dostoevsky, and I'm like Cervantes, I'm like these other.
Well, he really decides that once he goes back to prison shortly after this. But I will say I felt a connection to the man because he sold blood to get correspondence courses
I noticed this
from
as well.
the UC. Yeah, and I
Ian used
also
to
sold blood.
Ian used to go bleed to get free movie tickets.
Mine's a much stupider version of it, which I think is right.
When we were at UCLA, Ian would regularly go drain himself of his life force to get free passes to the Landmark, and then he would take me with him to see like Hot Tub Time Machine 2.
Maybe. Yeah.
Is Ian like the sole reason for a time period where they're like, somebody fainted watching this film, and it's nothing to do with the film, it's just because Ian has no blood left in his body.
Terrifier 1.
Yeah. People are fainting during preview screenings of the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. It's just because he's out of juice.
So exotic.
So, I mean, this guy is just like...
He's the youngest ever inmate at San Quentin at the time. He is...
Yep.
He's like down the hallway from Carol Chessman, who is like kind of a famous figure in carceral reform because
he played Archie Bunker.
That's right.
That's stupid. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's actually very good. So this
thank
guy...
you.
Yeah, this guy was sentenced to death and wrote smuggled out a memoir, kind of unclear, called Cell 2455 Death Row, and was like a real cause celebre for Huxley and Bradbury and Eleanor Roosevelt and Marlon Brando and a young Jerry Brown, like lobbying his father not to execute this guy because he was so popular. And this case became famous enough that Eisenhower was going to take a trip to South America, and they postponed his execution because people were like so upset about this. They were worried that there would be like riots or people would attack Eisenhower if they found out that he was executed. So
we should get that energy back.
Yeah.
We need people to feel, no, for real, we need people to feel that the president's safety may be compromised if innocent people are.
They do, exactly. Do
or
something
not even
that they're
innocent. If people are murdered by the state, we need this to be a direct threat to the lives of.
We just need to live like the French.
officials.
Do you know what I mean? Like the smallest inconvenience.
Oh my God.
We'll burn Paris down.
Exactly.
We want to.
Weekend protests for 2 years about this.
Yeah. Even this picture's been circulating on Twitter recently about how the French are so experienced at marching, at demonstrating, that they've developed a grill that fits into the tram tracks so they can grill sausages while marching through the street.
Amazing.
With like a little mobile barbecue.
The film, the Roman Gavras film, Athena, was literally just like a regular Tuesday in Paris. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're all seeing it going, whoa, this is so extreme. They're going, this is just if they give me parking ticket, okay? Like,
So, more of that energy here, please.
Yes,
Vive
that would
France.
be. And you're right, Jake. Part of the thing that's interesting about this guy to me is that he was not innocent. He just like told his story well enough that people remembered that sometimes people who aren't innocent are also human. So this affected Bunker greatly, and he decided that he wanted to be one of these like prison writer guys.
So his first novel is published, No Beast So Fierce.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely cool title.
It's about
for a
Nicholas
novel.
Holt.
So this is published in 1973 when Bunker is 40. Dustin Hoffman purchases the film rights. James Ellroy speaks very highly of it. And Bunker is paroled in 75. He
continues to be a criminal. He's like, he gets out of prison and says that it's impossible to get work, like legit work now. So he he like organizes these crimes. The police have like a tracker on his car all the time. So they catch him going to a bank heist. They thought he was going to go do like a little drugstore robbery. But yeah, I mean, this guy knows what it's like to be in the prison system. He writes about COs like stomping on you for fun when you're in the hallway.
Yeah. And, Animal Factory, his novel comes out, Straight Time comes out at the end of the 70s. And Straight Time, not a commercial success, but he gets, I think, the attention of a lot of these Michael Mann type guys who want to make cool, hard-edged movies about tough guys. And so he also has like a good face. He's got he looks like a piece of stone or something. And so he ends up in The Running Man and Tango and Cash, Reservoir Dogs. He is also, he like rewrites the movie Runaway Train. He's also in it, and he gets Danny Trejo in it, and so that launches Trejo. Trejo's also later in Heat as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but even then, this guy finds a tiny sliver of like legitimate potential to just get his needs met by being a cool, tough guy who has also read enough books that like the Hollywood dorks feel like they can talk to him about something. But like there aren't that many openings for this kind of guy.
No, this is not something we can make available to all people coming out of prison.
It does not scale. Yeah.
No.
But I think that feeling is in the film. You have to kind of look for it, but there is this sense of dashed hopes or hopelessness, and both for the characters and also I think for Cleveland. It's interesting to see this kind of film because it feels very much like a post-Tarantino, wisecracking criminal guys or guys who are disposing of a body while they talk about Silver Surfer or whatever, like that kind of specific, as you mentioned, Seven Psychopaths thing, Ian. But in the context of, this movie came out right after the 2016 election. This is post recession. This is post-Occupy. This is depressed Midwestern town. Dafoe in an interview with The Guardian mentions that it's the low budget cheapness of the production that expresses the cheapness of the life. That's not calculated, that just happened. For example, Cleveland was once a very powerful, wealthy place. It's where John Rockefeller came from. It fell on hard times like a lot of cities in the industrial Midwest. It's got such a fighter spirit to it, but it's funky. There's a texture to that world that we took advantage of. So I think at the edges of this film that otherwise feels mostly like, a goof, a movie to put on when you want to watch a movie, there's a sense of like loss and desperation for a lot of these people. And like, there's something so upsetting to me about this strip mall that has a wind turbine in the middle of it. I don't know what is going on. This is not for you guys over there in England. That's not normal we don't have that in all of them.
I
that's
was kind
weird.
of hopeful about that. I got to tell you, I had the opposite reaction. I thought, wow, could we just be running our strip malls on individual wind turbines?
That's pretty good.
That would be great.
Idea.
But this just seems like it seems like someone is playing SimCity with all these people's lives and just plopping stuff down in the middle of, the Apple's parking lot. Apple's is a real supermarket
club of the future. I want my sex workers powered by wind.
I do like that, actually.
Yes. Why not?
They're gyrating.
They don't
the
have
turbines
to spin the
are
pulse
gyrating.
spins. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's that scene also of where when they're in a different bar that seems to incidentally have a pole in it, and a woman in a bikini is cleaning the pole.
I thought that was kind of nicely observed.
Yeah.
Small moment.
Moment that you don't always see. Yeah.
To that point of like criminals not being able to escape their past, you do get kind of small moments that like do talk to that. Like a moment that I find hilarious is when Troy is trying to talk about Nice to like a sex worker. Mm-hmm. He just keeps trying to be like, so yeah, once I've done this thing, like, do you fancy going to Nice? And all she's saying is like, so do you want to pay the extra $300 and I'll suck your cock? Like, and it's just like, yeah, but what about Nice? Like, we could be having like lovely coffees and croissants on the croissant. And he's like, oh, and she's just like, no, not having any of it. Like, you are
it's
scum,
a smallness
stay
of
scum.
the mind. Yeah. It's that part was really upsetting, really tragic to me. There's something about, I feel like the anonymous Midwestern casino and hotel set also anticipates the card counter in exciting ways. These are and Twin Peaks: The Return. Also, there's plenty of like unappealing, sterile casino in that as well. There's something particularly tragic and of this moment about the casino that looks like shit and nothing cool happens there. They don't even have like an impressionist,
Yeah, I do want to ask our guests what they think. Is it a successful evocation of these problems, of these concerns? Because, I mean, the thing is, oftentimes we, on this podcast, will talk about things that come up in a film that are invoked in a film, but obviously we also have to talk about how successful that is. Does the film say something about this? I'm anticipating some beautiful Darryl pessimism here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd like to hear what you guys think.
Really reinforces that you need to always pay your sex worker in advance of the deed.
Yes.
And don't just assume that they've been paid in advance. Otherwise, it's going to be a disappointing time. It's going to, and as Mad Dog can attest, you're going to have a very stressful crank.
Yes.
Right.
She's trying to work in with the skill of a professional trombone player, and he's just like back stiff, not getting into it, and then you chase them out, and then you get blacklisted from your wind-powered strip malls. I assume that's how it works. I've never been to a strip club or indeed a mall.
Oh wow!
But it's everything I know about strip clubs comes purely from TV and film. Do you put the dollar bill in the string around the hips? Do they ask if you want a good time? Is there a back room? I don't know.
I appreciate that you think either of us would know. the answers to those questions.
Is that not the American pastime?
It's one of them, but another American pastime is never leaving your home or car. And that's the one that I devote myself to.
I'm definitely silent on strip club etiquette here. Okay, let my silence speak volumes.
That's a man who's been blacklisted.
There's the strip mall, the strip club, the stripping of American institutions for their scrap metal, for the copper wiring within. I think there's something going on here. The fact that they can go dispose of bodies simply by leaving them in an unused, what is it, like a marine training area or something like that. It's like it's just a structure that stands empty and unused to the point where you don't even need to bury someone's rotting body. You just put it inside and close the door. And you can put your own lock on it,
I think all of that stuff, to really get all of that stuff out of it, you really have to go looking within this film. It is kind of
2, 3, 4 podcast episodes.
Exactly, yeah. And I think all of it feels like a kind of post-Trump movie. It kind of feels like a Trump, do you know what I mean? Made in his tenure, and it's kind of I'd imagine it was put together, written before, or I don't know, I guess
probably, yeah.
Smelling the kind of the whiff of the fake tan and just misogyny of Trump in the air. It kind of it does capture that, and when you kind of get to the end, because I remember when I first watched this, it was during 2020, whilst do you know what I mean, race relations in America. To put it lightly, were not very good. Shall we say? So, when you kind of get to the final sequence of this film, it's kind of is something more being said here? Because it's kind of the innocent, church going, do you know what I mean, pastor and his wife are gunned down before Troy is, and it's kind of it feels weirdly prescient to just Trump's America, and in that sense, I think this film does nail it. It's just kind of the accoutrement, the stuff that's dangled on it, doesn't really let you as an audience, I imagine most people to watch this one time, you're not really going to come out afterwards going they've cracked it. Do you know what I mean? We know what is at the heart of this broken America, and
film of the decade list, topped by Dog Eat Dog. Yeah,
this film is really getting to the root cause of the evil that is the American dream or whatever. It's kind of you have to go looking for it, and you have to listen to hours of Paul Schrader wheezing to kind of get some answers, and it's feels too much work for a film that for him is to his own admission is I wanted to make this film to get rid of a stain on my career. And in the quote I heard, he threw Nicolas Cage under the bus and was I needed to get rid of a stain off of my shirt of my career. He's there weren't any help in Nicolas Cage. There's too many stains on his shirt. It's fucking hell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Schrader. Come on.
I mean, I was looking at RLJ Entertainment, the production company and distributor of this film. So many of the forgotten Nick Cage pictures come out from RLJ, and they all kind of look like this. They all look like they were shot on a phone that hasn't come out yet. It's a really good phone.
This was in quite a deep period of Nicolas Cage's straight to DVD era, as were much of the 2010s. So this. I sort of remember seeing I think it was an article on a website. It was Nicolas Cage, Willem Dafoe, this is going to be crazy, and then they squirted each other in some sauce.
Well, I mean, I do think the squirting of sauce, especially when it comes in the context of I believe it's Diesel saying, we got to be samurai, and crashing his car. Then there's a kind of Mishima-esque, it's a parody of the ending of Mishima, except instead of blood and a sword being plunged into one's own guts, it's a bunch of coked up guys squirting ketchup and mustard all over each other in a hotel room.
It's speaking about the what it is to be American, right? Whether you are all commodified, you are nothing more than a cheap hot dog just being sold by a vendor on the street. That's all they are. They're just cheap bits of meat ready to be used and abused, baby.
And Petros says this about you all the time on our episodes.
He's not wrong. He has maybe missed the part where the vendor is an undocumented immigrant who's being
my people
pursued
are doing it. My
and harassed by the
it.
police for selling the hot dog.
Yeah.
I mean, ketchup's good though. I'm a ketchup guy. I know this is like a child food, but I'll stand up for ketchup. I think ketchup has its place. You guys are probably more into the HP brown sauce.
Love the stuff. Cut me and I bleed HP brown sauce, baby.
I'm a chup boy. I'm a big chupper.
Oh, you're a chup man.
Yeah.
You dip your chips in your chup.
I'm
go to the Mr. Chippy.
Go to chip shop for chip shop. You dig?
Couldn't have put it better myself.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's talk about the ending, because apparently, according to Schrader, Nick Cage kind of wouldn't stop doing Bogart impressions throughout the film. He has a lot of takes of the regular lines.
Yeah, we haven't addressed this. Yeah, it's like a running bit throughout the film that he thinks he looks like Bogart. He wants to look like Bogart. Well,
and it recalls Elmore Leonard adaptations past. For example, Get Shorty, where Chili Palmer is obsessed with Touch of Evil. The movie nerd directors. Powerless to resist the idea of a tough, murderous man who also knows about Touch of Evil,
Yeah.
And so he's talking about, the old criminals from the movies, like Bogart and Edward G. I like how he just calls him Edward G. And I think this, if we go digging, this gets at some of the ideas about the contradiction in the image of the cool criminal that's been created by American popular culture, but then the actual punishment and dehumanization that people who commit crimes are actually subjected to. You don't get to be a cool guy; you just get turned into like a second-class citizen. But at the end of the film, after escaping the shootout at the Apple's supermarket, and someone, speaking of America, somebody pointed out on IMDb, I believe, that because you are allowed to open carry a firearm in the state of Ohio, you probably wouldn't get stopped by the cops if you had a gun on you in a supermarket. So would have gotten off scot-free. But he's on the run and perhaps dead. I mean, it's sort of a Taxi Driver First Reformed ending, kind of where are we, what's actually happening, middle zone. But he's picked up by an elderly black couple dressed up for church. One of them, I believe, is a reverend. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, they don't want any trouble. They want to go to the police, which I don't know if that is terribly accurate to how these folks would react in real life. But
to be clear, not that I think the film needs this much defending, but they say that they're not going to go to the police, and the reverend says, "Don't lie to him. He knows that we would go to the police." So they would go.
Okay. And all they have in the tape deck is spirituals, and this is not the song that plays at the end of First Reformed, although it sounds like it might be for some of it until you pay attention to the lyrics. And all the while, Cage is doing a Bogart impression.
He is, yeah.
Pretty good, I think. What do you guys think? His impression.
I think it's pretty decent. I mean, at this point, it's the last 5 minutes of the film. Fuck it, why not? He has
that's very much the attitude.
He has just been handcuffed to like the rear bumper of a police car and dragged for God knows how long. So at that point, I probably wouldn't be in my right mind either.
Sure,
truth be told.
He gets like white lynched by notably a black police officer, which is a weird inversion of how that would typically go in real life.
And he did slow-mo punch that female officer as well, which I thought was just a choice. I was like, okay.
He did. Yeah. I'm not sure if that choice is to remind us that these cool, sort of cool, funny criminals played by actors we like, to remind us if they're still bad guys, or if that's more just like edgelord style look what I'm getting away with, Paul Schrader stuff.
Well, I mean, this is like, as Petros was pointing out, this is like exactly contemporaneous shortly after the Freddie Gray murder in a rough ride in the back of a police car where I think there may have been a black officer involved as well. So this is,
more
this is
than
not like totally unheard of. This is, sometimes how it goes.
Sure. Very good point. But we then get this kind of dreamy, I thought of Tokyo Drifter, like Seijun Suzuki, kind of super stylized neon colors, foggy shootout with the police at the end.
Well, it feels like his touch points, like, because he's like crime movies, I don't really know how to do it in like the kind of post Tarantino way. So like his kind of like his markers are, I'll do a bit of Tarantino, like even like the beginning, and it's kind of interesting that Robert De Niro in Jackie Brown is styled after Edward Bunker. And then like the beginning of this film with like him watching the gun safety video, it's like he's gone, let's just do a bit of Jackie Brown. And then at the end he's like, like, who helped me produce Dying of the Light? Nicholas Winding Refn. He makes crime movies. I'll just kind of end it in this kind of like bisexual lighting almost.
Yes.
It's just all going to be like lit. I know it's supposed to be police. Yes, like blue and red lighting, but like it kind of do you know what I mean? I imagine, I don't know if there's a smoke machine or he's just got a load of like interns vaping. Like there's no tomorrow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The set smelt like fucking menthol blueberry blast. Like, let's go.
Centre free labour, baby.
If he needs that on the next one, I know a guy who's au fait at vaping. But it's kind of weird that, and I read somewhere that it's supposed to be the afterlife. Did anyone else read that?
I mean, I think it's totally possible that this is some kind of a death dream. I mean, I don't know to what extent Schrader thinks that, or doesn't, or cares to come down on one side of the fence or the other.
Yeah, I think it does also kind of invoke this like 3 strikes thing, because the Reverend himself, I think, was in prison for a while, they mentioned. So there is sort of this question about like shared experience. Can you reform? And of course, I have explained the 3 strikes laws before. If you go back to our blood work episode from season 1, we got into them a little bit. But this idea that, not giving people the option to even commit multiple mistakes and then still be able to grow or rehabilitate. And this, these laws became popular, first of all, in Texas, based on a law where a guy committed some fraud about air conditioner repair. And there was a Supreme Court case where they're like, well, maybe we shouldn't send a guy to prison for life because he defrauded some people about air conditioner repair. And the Supreme Court said, no, you should definitely send a guy to prison for life about this. And these laws became more popular in the 1990s. So this is like in our lifetimes. These became, something that the public supported. And then in 2012, California finally repealed this law. And then since then, there's an interesting article in the New York Times that I encourage people to read, just called "You Just Got Out of Prison, Now What?" And it's looking at a couple of guys in this sort of exact dog-eat-dog scenario, except they have been released because of this repeal of the 3 strikes laws. And sometimes these people got like 24 hours notice that they were getting out of prison.
Jesus.
And they're just totally unprepared to re-enter. And they have all these experiences like the carpet scene in this film where like one of the guys in the article puts jam on all of his sandwiches, including like egg sandwiches and ham sandwiches and stuff, because they didn't have access to jam and he enjoys it so much. And they don't have any sense of like cultural references that people like, and they aren't used to being deciding their own meal times. So they sometimes skip meals. And, obviously they have the more classic experiences of finding jobs being very difficult, et cetera, et cetera. And some respect to the Stanford Law Program's name. I guess they were responsible for helping get like a couple hundred or maybe a couple thousand prisoners released after the repeal of this law. So that's cool. But
Stanford back on top. We are a pro Stanford podcast now.
Well,
everything they do.
No, yeah, that's too much, maybe. Pro in some capacities, certainly.
Interesting to note. Prisons in Texas have air conditioning? Probably not.
No,
and
probably not.
The repairs that are done on those air conditioning units, if they do exist, you think those are totally above board? No,
Right.
no bid deals going on. Yeah.
Charging the state $1,200 or something for
$90,000 per unit. Yeah.
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 So anyway, I thought it was interesting to see, because one of the things I talk about in this article is how important the first day is, and how some of these guys will volunteer or get jobs going back to drive people like home from prison the first time, because it's really, like setting the tone for the rest of your experience.
Yeah.
And so thinking about that in the context of this final car ride where the Reverend is sort of like in this exchange with Troy, a failed attempt at rehabilitation versus a maybe successful one. And how does that happen? Is it just luck in the American system? Like we're talking about, where most people are not going to have that achievement or have that turnaround like an Edward Bunker or something. Now, I want to be clear. I think all of this is in the film. Parts of the film I still think are quite bad. And I always feel like I'm tricking the listener when we elide how stupid some of the stuff is in a movie.
No, it can be bad.
I mean, there's like also just a lot of really racist junk that you mentioned, Jake, is put in their mouths as kind of like these guys, they're so un-PC. But it comes up like 10 times in the movie. The
Schrader
film doesn't tire of it.
He says that he tried to cast Michael Wincott and Michael Douglas and Quentin Tarantino and Scorsese and Nick Nolte and Christopher Walken and Jeff Goldblum and Rupert Everett as Greco the Greek, but it didn't work out. So he had to be the guy. Saying all this stuff.
He had to say the N-word. Yeah. He had to call
this character
somebody a monkey.
Calls for like a Rupert Everett type. I think I'll do it.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Excuse me. I think I'll do it. That was more Nolte, actually.
Yeah, I love that he cast Nolte, because he's like, at least like once he's got someone who like has a similar voice to him. Do you know what I mean? When he's casting his surrogates, he's like, do you know who's just like me? Ethan Hawke. Do you know who else is just like me?
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac. Do you know what I mean? And then that time he's like, do you know who probably is most like me? Nick Nolte, who sounds like a fucking bag of gravel in a washing machine.
Have you seen the interview where he says that he cast Nolte because he has a nice, warm face that audiences like?
He's the type of actor that everybody just loves naturally or something. Just like, this man is just moving through the world differently than us.
Yeah, he's a beautiful mind. Yeah. And then, then he's gunned down, but not before the totally innocent church-going couple are. And I don't know how much the film is really attempting to say anything besides like, ain't it ironic?
Yeah.
But there's little nuggets in here to pick at if you're psychos like us. Any final thoughts on Dog Eat Dog? Dog Eat Dog Eat Dog?
I liked when Diesel died. I think that whole sequence is that he shoots the female officer, lightly jogs around the corner.
Shoots her pretty impressively. It's a handgun.
It's a good
snipe shot essentially.
It's a good shot by all accounts. I'm not for shooting police officers necessarily, but if I was, I'd be pro that. And then he drives away. He steals that sort of sheriff's jeep in a very kind of fast, a little bit furious. Goes full crank and starts having a heart attack for some reason.
Yeah,
he does.
And I really enjoyed when he crashed the car, and I think the car's supposed to be spinning. There's an interior shot of him like going to the side and glass coming through, and the car is quite clearly stationary. I was a big fan of all that.
We do get the classic Crank CGI close-up of the heart as it starts to fail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chev Chelios. That's that guy's name. Just remembered it. Just wanted to say it out loud.
Yep.
Those movies are good.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. I wonder if Schrader likes the Crank movies. We'll have to ask him.
I bet he likes cranking.
He loves cranking. That's for sure. Other final thoughts? Have we closed the book for now until you guys have to do it again?
Did I say this in our podcast that, like, for me, Schrader looks like if you shaved Winnie the Pooh and then dropped him in lint?
I was at a Goodwill yesterday, which is like this is a thrift store that we have here in the States. And I heard an elderly woman's voice, and I guess she was with somebody. But she said, "You can never have too many of these." And I turned around, and she's holding a stuffed Winnie the
Pooh. Wow.
So
it's kind of our attitude on this podcast.
You can never have too many Paul Schrader films.
That's Winnie the Schrader. Winnie the Schrader. I'm going to post on Facebook something I'm going to regret.
Kind of a honeypot to get your hand stuck in, the Facebook.
Absolutely. I would love to see him climb through a hole. All right. Well, with that thank you so much, fellas. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Guys. Yeah, this is great.
And also, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're on our podcast blacklist now, just so you know.
Oh, that means we're hotly desired scripts about Jim Henson going on a bender or whatever.
That means we tried to make them crank us off for too long, and then they started checking their phones, and we got mad.
Yeah, they started checking their phones very East Asianly. They made that woman do an accent that I don't think she had in real life.
Yep.
We got one more thing we got to do on the damn show. I always forget about this.
We sure do.
So, Schrader, in discussing his upcoming film, had this to say.
I've never written a script about sexual obsession, and so that's what I'm doing now.
So this is the sexual obsession check-in, where we try to determine to what extent Schrader has written a film that is not about sexual obsession. We have plenty of no's on the list at this point, but the sexual obsession is a strong theme throughout the man's filmography. Gentlemen, do you find that this film is about sexual obsession?
No, there's there's allusions to, I think, like when he talks about like the carpet, it's like a warm pussy. Like I don't know why I did Schrader there, but like I don't think so. It's very chaste in the fact that like these guys like don't seem that sexual.
Yeah, it's like transactional in a way.
Yeah, like even they're kind of like like Cage is more interested in talking about like the French Riviera than he is talking like, do you know what I mean? He's not like, let's fucking get down to business. And the most like, I don't know, the most sexy moment of the film, like if I dare say so, is the hot dog mustard fight.
The ketchup, the
ketchup mustard.
Yes.
Come on.
Cover me in their condiments, or condiments, if you will.
I saw a very horny letterboxed like post about this film saying, rewatching the condiment fight just to hope that both Nicolas Cage and Dafoe are in my dreams tonight.
Wow.
That was my post, by the way.
That was from Darryl Edge.
I didn't find much sexual obsession. I would assume they've done a long stint in prison, so they've been without in that very caveman rubbing your thighs kind of way. Although I just imagine Paul Schrader, sexual obsession. If honey for Winnie the Pooh is a sexual obsession, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question that we often run into, is like, to what extent are all obsessions erotic in nature?
Fetishistic, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a ton of it here. Although I wouldn't trust these guys. They seem, sexually deviant. They seem, I don't like their attitude toward it.
Over here, we'd call them a couple of rotters, is what we would call them over here.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Yeah, they seem sexually maladapted at the very least. I think there is a cold interest in sex in the film, a sort of feeling that sex must be a part of these guys' lives without really knowing how it fits into them.
Right, something you gotta take care of in between schemes. Yep. Well, fellas, where can folks check you out? The stuff that you're doing, the Getting Dafoe You pod, anything else you got going on? Where should folks look?
So you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, wherever, TikTok, all at Dafoe You Pod. We are just in the throes of releasing our 4th season. So there's 3 seasons of the pod to go back. We look at Dafoe's career all the way from Heaven's Gate up into the present day, but in a kind of more curated seasonal basis, because we realised that potentially there'll be whole swaths of time where nobody will listen, as we both learned.
Yeah, we found that.
Sorry, what?
Yeah.
Something we both found out doing a Nicolas Cage podcast and then asking people, can you please listen to an episode on the entirety of the 2010s period where there are a load of films you've never even fucking heard of. So
we've been to the bottom, people. We've been to the bottom.
Yeah. The bottom of the red box. Yeah. You guys got red box over there?
We don't know. No.
Wait, do you know what that is?
I've heard you guys speak about it on your podcast.
Okay. Well, beautiful.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is like a vending machine version of a video rental thing, and it's a big red box, but it's come to stand in for a certain type of former A-listers shot in Eastern Europe, kind of, the Nick Cage of the 2010s type film.
I think the modern kind of comp for that would be like any movie that is on a free streaming platform,
Freevee, Pluto TV.
Freeplex. Yeah.
When you have got like adverts just plopped in at any fucking moment, which is how I watch Dog Eat Dog as well. Do you mean halfway through a line, it's like, get car insurance. Like, oh fuck me. Yeah, I think when
did you think any of them were part of the film? Because I wouldn't put it past this movie.
I wouldn't have been surprised. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, I'm being adverts. And a lot of the adverts as well, it seems like they don't understand like geolocations, because it will be like, I'm pretty sure I've got like German adverts in the past. I'm like, I can't even access this insurance. Like, why are you giving this to me?
For a little while, I was getting, on YouTube, I was getting served ads for voting in Los Angeles elections, but in Japanese. So that was pretty cool.
Interesting.
So like some blandly handsome Japanese men talking to each other, I presume, about where to get voter information.
I got an advert recently that was a like Bible app, but it's like the spokesperson is Mark Wahlberg.
Stay prayed up. That's what he says.
He's doing that from shooting those from 4 to 4:30 in the morning.
He would have been a good Diesel, maybe.
I think you could have just swapped out the cast from
Pain and Gain.
Yeah, as well. Yeah. It kind of that is like the high budget Dog Eat Dog, isn't it? To some degree.
Yeah, my girlfriend hated that film as well, but maybe we should revisit it. Maybe she'll like it again, or she'll like it this time. All right. Well, thanks again, Phyllis. For the listeners, thank you for joining us. If you did, who knows? Remember to subscribe, rate us, write a review. It helps us on the algorithm. If you like the show, tell a friend, tell your dad. Tell El Greco. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Podcastiform. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or you're interested in co-hosting a 2-person Paul Schrader podcast, you can email us at podcastiforme@gmail.com. Thanks again to Jeremy Allison for our artwork. Petros, please don't listen to any of the episodes where I do a Ray Winstone impression. And with that, fellas, thanks again.
Thank you so much, guys. I mean, we had the light died, we went to the dark. I think of this movie as a type of a hell in both the positive and negative ways. And then
behind Petros, it's become
I was observing this. It's from a gloaming into true night here. And then next week we get a dawn of a new era, maybe.
Right. This was men who did not reform.
Yep.
And now we're first reforming. So thank you for closing out this chapter of Paul Schrader with us, fellas.
Thank you very much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Glad we could be here for the end of an age.
You sound so glad.